Alright guys, HyDra back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. And after what appears to be the most top-heavy CDL we've ever had in the history of the Call of Duty League, Scrappy with a few words as to why certain teams in the bottom of the standings just have no chance of getting any better. He believes a lot of these guys don't even want to play with each other. They're just there for the paycheck. They have no intention of trying to build chemistry outside of the game, and it's no secret why the top 4 and even arguably top 6 teams are exactly what they are. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. Interesting spots here from Shotzzy. Not sure I've already seen this one before, but yeah, just a little jump spot that you can go for. You're definitely not getting cleared up in this corner. I'm not sure you can probably get on the next ledge, otherwise Shotzzy I imagine would have done so, but that's still an interesting one to keep in mind. There's been some cheating stuff as well. We know that there's talk over the last couple of days about the future of challenges, especially given the lack of challenges lands this season compared to what we would like to see. Lots of the challenges stuff is going to be done online, and of course that very much opens the door to cheaters. Some guys will get caught. I think there's no doubt. People will try and cheat. People will get caught. They'll get PC checked. They'll get monitor cammed. It's probably going to happen. But still, some people will probably try, because given the way that challenges works, if you cheat and get caught, well, unlucky, you just give it up and go do something else as a hobby. If you cheat and don't get caught, then all of a sudden maybe you get picked up to the league like the Jimbo did. You know how it goes. But this is pretty funny. Some kid that got banned on CMG for hacking, this guy Big Mo does a PC check on him and just like he gets basically exposed himself. You guys can see on the PC. So pretty funny stuff, to be honest. There's also this from Sib. Sib's tweets again, it's just so funny, right? I love how he censored the F word here, but like he's not even spelt it right. I don't even know what's going on there, but I thought it was pretty entertaining. But he was no doubt the MVP of this past weekend's. When we have a look at these numbers, sure, Control only 1.03, but the other game mode, Sib had a 2.25 in Surge and a 1.8 in Hardpoint this weekend. Remarkable. Now look, that's not sustainable. Sib is not going to drop a 1.8 forever from now to the end of the season, but definitely proving why the change for Priestahh, while still controversial, and I still think there's something to be said on when they get to a LAN event, you know, how they're going to do with this particular roster. But I think, you know, it was a reasonable assessment from the New York Subliners that the team that won last year's World Championship, with the upgrades that FaZe were going to make, with the upgrades that OpTic were going to make, and certainly with Toronto potentially going to make, standing still was probably not an option. And I think that, well, looking back on it so far, they will be very pleased at the decision they've made to put Sib straight into their lineup. Of course, with the Subliners, there was some drama with Skyz snaking a little while ago, and we've also seen the whole, well, Seattle Surge thing. Now, there was some discussion here on what exactly the punishment should be. We talked about yesterday the fact that Scrappy and the guys had seemingly backed down on punishing the Seattle Surge for using a couple of smoke grenades or, you know, breaking the trophy system, GA, and this type of stuff, because maybe the pros felt that what they had proposed as the second offense punishment was maybe too severe for what that was. Now, in an ideal world, the league here would step in to some degree, but the problem is the league is never really going to do that. There are other ways. Like, if the league was to step in, I wonder exactly what they would do about it if they were to decide, look, at the end of the day, we're in year, 5 of the CDL. There's not going to be magically a CDL commission ran by, you know, Merc, TP, maybe get Nature, and then maybe get a couple of pro players in there, current pro players, Parasite, I don't know, to make the calls on what the map mode combination should be, what map should come in. You know, basically, if there was a CDL commission on this stuff, they could basically say, all right, we're going to bring in Grease Hardpoint, we're going to get rid of, you know, Invasion Hardpoint or Terminal Hardpoint, something like that, just because, you know, not let the pros make the decisions on this stuff, and therefore they could reflect the gentleman's agreement as well, and they could potentially say that, well, if you break a GA, you're going to lose your map vetoes, or even I would say, my preference would be, if you break a GA like Skyz snaked or whatever, you get banned for a series or two. You know, you get what happens in football, you get a red card, get a 3-match ban, I don't know, and then you'd have to use your substitutes. Maybe it's just an idea, but it's never going to happen because the CDL's never going to reflect GAs. Maybe in a future lifetime post CDL there could be something like this in place, because GAs are frankly always going to exist in some form or another. But some teams right now are trash, there's no doubt about it. There are 4 excellent teams in the league: OpTic, FaZe, Subliners, and Toronto. There are a couple of teams that are actually good teams, but might not have the talent to really compete with the top guys. I would say those are Miami and Los Angeles Guerrillas right now. to me, those are probably my 5th, 6th teams in the league as it stands. And it probably isn't a massive surprise that those top 6 teams I've just mentioned feel like the most cohesive teams in the league right now. Everybody else feels like a team of individuals. Scrappy feels the same way, but actually says this isn't just the fault of the coaching staff or the builders of the teams putting it together. It's the fault of the players themselves. They don't try to improve. They don't try to become friends with their teammates and to take it to the next level. Talking about how chemistry outside of the game is massively important to success in the game, and saying that lots of these guys just, well, don't care enough to actually make it happen and shouldn't be surprised when they're eventually dropped from their teams.
I'm gonna spit some. I'm gonna spit some. You guys let me know. From like I said, I don't know who the 5, 6 best team is or like whatever, but like the clear top, like the top 4, like the top 4 people say, right? Bro, they like no one is a team, bro. Like besides like the top 4 teams, I don't feel like anyone's a team. Like bro, like they don't want to play with each other. They don't even try to like have a chemistry outside the game. It's like personally, I don't look at going like, yeah, gaming's my job, playing Call of Duty is my job. I don't look at it like that though. Like I go to like scrims every day. Like bro, I'm playing video games, bro. I'm having fun, bro. I'm doing a hobby. But I feel like all these other teams think of it as a job, and like, bro, it's like I'm going to work and I'm going back home. Chemistry outside of the game will always come into the game and make you way better. I just don't think people ever even like. I mean, these are all gamers. Like most of these people are gamers. Like they don't want to go outside. They don't want to like interact with people. They don't want to talk to a human being. So Miami the only one. Exactly. Miami's the only one outside of the top 4 teams that like actually have like a team chemistry. And look, they're actually pretty good. They lost today, but I didn't think they should have I think they should have won. Vegas boys have never met each other. I mean, yeah, that's ass. But like, I'm sorry, but like again, if I'm on one of these teams, I'm at least trying to move in with someone or move to one area or move into a team house, do something to like, bro, these guys are just like, I'm getting paid. I'm just going to play from my bedroom.
So what do you guys think about Scrappy's analysis here? Because I think it's pretty on the money, to be honest. I think Scrappy is making a good point that outside of the game, chemistry is important. We know that, look, you do see the episodes that are done with OpTic on the game chat stuff, or with some of these teams, they seem to be more boys outside of the game. And that definitely is a valuable asset if the team wants to have success. Of course, we've seen so far Toronto looking pretty good. These are the numbers for their season so far. Envoy, of course, has clawed himself way back to impressively positive after the tricky series they had against Boston. And sure, there's still questions about this team after what happened against Boston, but Scrappy has said that, well, it was just online, can't beat those guys online, and various internet problems. But maybe Boston fall into the category that Scrappy's talking about here. Certain teams at the bottom that don't necessarily have the chemistry required or even the willingness to create it. Some teams are in just a tough spot to make this happen. Like Vegas, as was mentioned there, they're not playing, they don't have a facility, right? I think Carolina, I'm pretty sure all the boys are out there in Charlotte or wherever they're based. So that is maybe a possibility more so. Vegas are just in a tough spot. And look, if you're on Vegas, you kind of know that you're just trying to make champs. You're not really doing much more than that. And just there for, to make a bit of cash during the course of the season and to, I guess, play what you enjoy playing. But if you want to be serious, if you want to take it serious, you've got to try and build a chemistry up. You've got to actually want to play with your teammates. And that was the other interesting point that he believes. Lots of these guys down the bottom don't even want to play with their own teammates. Now, we have seen the likes of Boston or Thieves or even Surge, they do some content together and stuff like that. Certain organizations like Gorillas, they don't do any content anymore, not like they ever really did. But, even Thieves, we saw them sat down. They do their own kind of like couch thing. They sit there and they have a chat for a little bit. Does that mean that they're great friends inside and outside of the game? That is, well, according to what Ziddy rumored the other day, that's certainly not necessarily the case. But Scrappy's implication seems to be that these guys shouldn't be surprised if they eventually get dropped or removed when they're not really doing what they need to be doing to take it to the next level. Lots of those guys, satisfied to make the paycheck and just be a respectable team and be a respectable player, but not really try to get to the next level, which is what it takes for some of these guys. But to be honest, it's also a thing in terms of team building, right? This is a reason why the Los Angeles Gorillas, despite the criticism they took, and Viols took the coach for putting together this roster of, boys he knew from challenges, but those are boys that are boys, they actually like each other, they enjoy playing with each other, and they create a good team. Whereas, had Los Angeles Gorillas made that team of like a Seam and Gunless and, Kremp or, whatever exactly the roster was potentially going to be, arguably that team would have been significantly worse because while better players individually, would they have worked well together? Would they have enjoyed playing with each other? Would they, be willing to grind and put in the hours and treat it more like a hobby that they're trying to become the best in the very world at, rather than just like a job that they clock in for and clock out when they go home for the day? That is a key factor, and I can't blame the players fully in the sense that they are stuck in teams and situations potentially where, if you don't really get along particularly well with your teammates, and that's just how it is, it's kind of difficult to change that unless you change the team. If you've been put on a roster and the coaching staff, whatever, mash together players that are theoretically good and hope you work well together, it's kind of difficult to, drag yourself out of that situation unless you just improve. But there's a reason why there is big correlation between these current point standings and what we've just discussed. The top 4 teams, though, they have the chemistry, they have, obviously the FaZe guys like each other. That's certainly the case for the Subliners. Ultra, obviously Scrappy was talking about it. At OpTic, we know that's true full well. They have that chemistry and they have the talent. Whereas you then have the 5th through 6th, 7th teams, which I would say are Heretics. Surge, I think, also in a kind of similar position. Arcetes and Ely, like, they clearly put together that team because they enjoy playing with each other, and they've been pretty decent so far. Gorillas have been surprisingly good, and then Heretics, sure, they lost the last 2 series, and they've only beaten the very worst teams, but they still look pretty respectable in the series they've played, and are definitely a middle-of-the-pack team. So I would say, let's say top 6, top 7 teams in the league right now. You're looking at the top 4 teams with the chemistry and the talent. You're then looking through 5 through 7, maybe 5 through 8 with, less talent, but still some chemistry. And then when you get down to the bottom, you have either some talent and no chemistry, or no talent and no chemistry, which is, the recipe for complete disaster, such as arguably the Ravens, that they've won 3 maps so far, and that's all in one particular series. So tweet your thoughts on that in the comment section below, because definitely the top teams have some of what Scrappy is talking about, and it really is no secret, and it's something that's worth understanding, because Miami as a roster going in, you look at the pure rosters on talent in the league, and you might say, well, Miami probably in the bottom 4 somewhere, but I think people who knew that team was going to work well together predicted that, especially at the start of the season, they'd be pretty decent, as with the Los Angeles Guerrillas have turned out. Whether that's maintainable over time, that's another question. And these are not precisely easy problems to solve if you are the teams at the bottom of the league. It's not quite as simple as it used to be several years ago when you just made any roster changes you wanted. Right now, well, you can make some, but given the contracts and stuff like this, it becomes a little bit more challenging. This I thought was kind of interesting from Doug Levy as well, putting together like the expected performance of some of these teams at the start of the year compared to now. The top 4 teams are pretty much where they were. Surge, Boston even, and Gorillas are slightly better than expected. Heretics are actually about, where they, they're still where they potentially were. But certain teams, Thieves, even Vegas, Rocker, and then definitely Ravens are significantly weaker using, potential strength of team analysis compared to where they were considered to be at the start of the season. And this is a trend that, well, if it doesn't go anywhere, there are big questions about. Wonder what you guys think as well about Boston, right? Because I've mentioned those teams. Surge, it feels like they've got a bit more chemistry than the average team. At least maybe they're middle of the pack on that one. Miami and Gorillas, obviously, we know they've got pretty good chemistry and good teamwork. I know that Scrappy didn't mention Gorillas, but I'm sure like he would feel the same way about Miami in some sense. But Boston, there are questions about that. We know that Slasher and Priestahh have played together before, but, you've put those 2 guys with Snoopy and Capsidal, very talented players, but, how do they get along out of the game? Do they go for dinners together as a team? And, do they hit the gym together? Stuff like this. Like, it's, small things like that, but quite important things, because of all the teams in the league, Boston are the only team, as far as I'm concerned, that really have the talent over the course of a season to actually, try and break into the top 4. But as Scrappy says, they're going to need something else to make that happen. And maybe that's something that they can develop over time. But it's certainly something that if I was the coaching staff of Boston, I would be acutely aware of, because, well, it's something you're going to need if you want to make a grand finals, as Slasher and Priestahh have done for the last several years in a row. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.